From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, May 20th, 2024. We'll get into your 10-day takeaways. We've got big areas of low pressure sweeping through parts of the plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, eventually into Ontario. We get some of the wraparound moisture from that. So keeping the showers in the forecast this week, but the heavier precipitation definitely off to the south and to the east. This favorable stormy pattern lingers into June. This is your 30-day precipitation outlook for the month of June, keeping those above normal precipitation anomalies in the forecast across the prairie proper. Temperatures this week were a bit cooler to get started, but we'll be trending warmer through the week, into the weekend, and on into next week. Looking at the last 7 days of precipitation, again, it was another pretty active week, 15 to 30 millimeters of precipitation, where you find that light blue shading. In between that, we had some drier patches. Regina kind of missing out on that. Areas just to the east of Saskatoon, between Edmonton and Calgary, a little bit on the drier side. We're talking about, 10 to 15 millimeters or less in some of these areas. As we look at the last 30 days, again, where you see that deep blue shading across much of eastern into southern Alberta, much of western, central, and southern Saskatchewan, and then parts of southern Manitoba as well. That's where we have twice the expected precipitation from mid-April through mid-May. So it has certainly been active. We're going to keep it at least somewhat active as we roll through the next couple of weeks as well. Now, as I animate the satellite picture, you see these big areas of low pressure and a couple swirls. There's one over here across the Hudson Bay, northern Ontario. We do have one kind of parked overhead, so I'm a little incorrect when I say that the areas of low pressure are all tracking south and east. The bulk of the rain and storm activity is tracking off to the south and to the east. We've just got kind of this lingering wraparound moisture overhead, so it's keeping it cooler, definitely cloudy and a little bit damp across parts of Alberta. A little drier as that dry punch comes into southern Saskatchewan, probably clear this morning in that area. And then you move further east. Here we've got a little bit of lift and some showers, likely some cloud cover across parts of central and southern Alberta, maybe even a few rumbles. I said Alberta, I meant Manitoba. A few rumbles of thunder possible across parts of Manitoba through the day today. Brandon may be hearing some thunder this morning. Winnipeg may hear some thunder later on today. As you make your way further west, this is more just kind of cool, cloudy, dreary, light rain activity. So further to the east, this is where you see all the heavy rain and thunderstorm activity across the Midwest, parts of the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes in the United States. Look at those temperatures, cooler in the west, warmer in the east. Again, this is the kind of difference here. Cooler, cloudy, dreary across Alberta, a little more warm, spring-like, a little heavier precipitation as you make your way further west into parts of southern Manitoba. You head off to the bottom right corner of that screen. That's where you see those temperatures in the 15 to 25 degree range. That's muggy, warm air. That is why all the heavy rain and thunderstorm activity continues to be located across that area. So this is your next 7 days, just broadly looking at the European ensemble model. Again, not completely dry across the prairie this week, but it's going to be a little bit quieter than it has been the last few weeks as we're just kind of caught in between. We get that wraparound gloomy moisture for the next few days, and then we kind of reset the pattern heading into the weekend. Now, looking at the week 2 precipitation forecast, we keep us kind of in the corridor. There's no loud signal for an extremely active week 2. This would be the last days of May, the first 3 to 4 days of June. But we're certainly still in line for at least some of these, what we call short waves, little minor disturbances caught within the flow that could trigger some corridors of showers and thunderstorms. We'll look at the heights here over the next 10 days, 10 to 14 days, and you see these areas of low pressure just kind of pivoting, rotating around. We start to mix it up as we get into next week. I'll kind of time this one out for you. Let's bring it back here to Monday. Again, this area of low pressure just spinning overhead. That's what's going to keep it kind of cooler and cloudy for the next couple of days. We see an area of low pressure, another upper level trough gets swung around the base of that trough over the prairie. So this is going to trigger another heavy rain and severe weather event across parts of the Midwest. We've got another area of low pressure trailing here across British Columbia on Tuesday evening. This too gets kind of swung around the base of the Canadian Prairie area of low pressure. This is now Thursday night into Friday. We reload another area of low pressure here across British Columbia. This too gets kind of flung into the northwest U.S., potentially giving us, a better chance for some shower and storm activity, maybe across parts of Manitoba. And then look, reloading here as well. So we keep the pattern active, but we kind of shifted a little bit from where the Canadian Prairie was kind of ground zero to now it's parts of the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes of the U.S. are kind of ground zero here. So we'll look at the jet stream winds that accompany all of this. It's as we get into let me jump back here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. As we go through the next few days, we've got this area of low pressure parked overhead over, kind of the Alberta-Saskatchewan border. But where's all the jet stream support? It's way down south here. So as these areas of low pressure get kind of rotated around, flung through the plains here, much of the upper level support, missing the prairie here. So we keep that upper level low, keeps it cooler, keeps it cloudier, keeps the chance for some showers. But we're not talking about heavy rain. We're not talking about thunderstorms or anything like that. It's not till we get to really the last days of May. We're going to see that ridge build here. That'll let the temperatures warm up as we head into the weekend, early next week. And then we kind of end up back in a trajectory here where maybe we're talking about storm systems having a better chance of bringing some heavier precipitation into the area. This would be as we get into the beginning of June. So it's not active, but it's not as active as it's been the last couple of weeks. It's a tough forecast to really put into words here, but this tells the story a little more. Here's your next 5 days of precipitation. Again, just wrap around moisture, very light. It's going to be cool, cloudy, and damp out there, but the heaviest precipitation falls across southern Manitoba over the next couple of days and then exits the area. Otherwise, it's all pivoting south and east of the prairie. So we take the next 10 days. So now we're looking at not just the next 5, the next 10, not a big change. Again, the best chance for some heavier rain over the next 10 days is going to be central and southern Manitoba. As you look at much of Alberta and Saskatchewan, we're talking about wraparound showers, the chance for moisture, every few days, but not a lot in the way of heavy soaking moisture. Maybe a better chance for that as you make your way into some of the higher elevations across western, farther into the Grand Prairie, Peace River area. Could certainly be a little bit wetter over the next 10 days. We'll look at this one last time, taking a look at the European model, kind of putting it all in action in a way we can kind of digest with the precipitation. Again, through the day today, the next couple of days, this area of low pressure parked overhead, keeping it cool, cloudy, and damp across much of Alberta and Saskatchewan. This is now into Tuesday. Wednesday, you see this big area of low pressure. These are the ones that produce the thunderstorms, the heavy corridors of soaking rain, maybe clipping southeast Manitoba here. This is Wednesday. We see this one lift into Ontario and kind of spin itself out. Here comes another one. You see these just get pivoted and rotated south of the prairie. So the Dakota's now seeing some heavy rain, some storms as we get into Thursday evening, Thursday night. This one may be lifting into southern Manitoba. Again, this is what I'm saying. Over the next week, southern Manitoba, if anyone's going to get some soaking rains, it's going to be you. This is now Friday afternoon, Friday evening. We see another area of low pressure now moving into parts of Alberta. This is getting into Friday night and Saturday. This one, certainly some of the higher elevations getting over toward the foothills could see some heavier precipitation. This one spins through the prairie kind of through the weekend. So this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe a better chance for some thunderstorms across a bigger part of the prairie. So I guess my message across Alberta, Saskatchewan would be cool and cloudy, damp Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We get kind of a reset Thursday, Friday, and then maybe a chance for some heavier rain, some thunderstorms through the weekend, Friday, Saturday into Sunday. We'll finish this loop here. This would be getting into Monday now, into Tuesday, a bit of a break in the pattern. This would allow some higher pressure to build in, probably looking at a warmer, drier start to next week. So your probability on the left of getting a half an inch of moisture, or of rainfall or more over the next 10 days. And then on the right, your probability of picking up an inch or more over the next 10 days. So this tells the story pretty well. The left side here, you had a pretty good chance for just about everyone to pick up a few tenths up to a half an inch of precipitation. But when you start talking about a heavier 10 days, getting an inch or more, we start to lose that across much of Alberta and Saskatchewan. And again, this kind of drives that point home. If you're looking for heavier soaking rain this week, it's going to be southern Manitoba, or it's going to be western into, western Alberta into the Grand Prairie, Peace River area later in the week, getting it a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here's your June outlook. Again, keeping that above normal precipitation outlook in the forecast through the month of June across the prairie, keeping that favorable outlook there. It's always good if we're not talking about widespread drought at this time of year. Those temperatures are much cooler compared to average to start off the week, thanks to that area of low pressure kind of parked overhead. But as we talked about through this video, we'll start to reset the pattern as we get toward the weekend into early next week. I think it's going to be, next week, the first few days of next week, before we really start to kind of shed the cooler temperatures that have been locked in place here with this stagnant area of low pressure. But Here you see it in Calgary. Certainly some mild days to be had, but you see those lower 20s start to work their way in as we get into May 28th, 29th, and 30th next week. Edmonton, a very similar look. Warming back up into the mid-teens for those afternoon high temperatures this week, getting into the 20s next week. Saskatoon, there you see it, that slope up from the lower teens for your highs today through the next few days to the mid-20s by the time we get to mid next week. Regina, similar look here. And then Winnipeg, you're a little bit further away from the area of low pressure parked over Alberta and Saskatchewan, so you will flirt with 20 degrees tomorrow. That high of 17 today, 19 tomorrow, a little bit cooler as the front sweeps through. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, those highs in the mid-teens before we start to warm up over the weekend into early next week. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you again, not next Monday, May 27th. That will be a holiday. It'll be Memorial Day here in the United States. We'll hit you on Tuesday morning, May 28th. Have a wonderful next 8 days.